Hey everybody, it's Trigger Bar Philosopher. Welcome back out to the channel. Today we're going to do a great episode. We're going to begin reviewing what and why on 300 Blackout. We're going to be doing some gel testing. We're going to be doing some other fun things like that. Should be a good time. Let's get to shooting. Okay, so today we have the PSA Jackal. We have an AB-A10 Warthog suppressor on it. We have the Holosun AEMS red dot on top. We have an A3 tactical brace on the end of it. And yeah, it's the 8.5 inch PSA Jackal that's all lined up for it. And today we're going to be talking about what and why would we use a 300 Blackout. And then we'll show some of that as we get down and do some gel testing, velocity tests, accuracy, those types of things. So I really do think that the short barreled 300 Blackout does have a role in self-defense because it can move between subsonic and supersonic. The importance about going subsonic is with a suppressor, it's generally almost or pretty much hearing safe. Some 300 Blackouts and some suppressors with the right ammunition can be very hearing safe. So we're going to be testing out some Magtech Tactical. It's a 200 grain bullet. We're also going to be testing some Hornady Sub X, especially in the gel. And then we're also going to be testing some supersonic rounds, some AAC Black Saber. It's their 110 grain round. And so we're going to be testing those three rounds and comparing them and show that one of the reasons 300 Blackout is so cool is because you can go from these heavy 4 caliber bullets that are going slower than the speed of sound. That's what subsonic means, all the way up to these super fast bullets that are giving you more like rifle power. And so we're going to show the difference between these two, both in what they mean in terms of gel, and then in terms of what they can mean in terms of velocity and how it might be for self-defense. So let's get to the gel test. First up, we have the 200 grain Magtech Subsonic and our PSA Jackal. Right, that was 1073, so yeah, subsonic. It came in down at the bottom. I actually forgot my height over bore issues when you're shooting up close with your rifle because it's zeroed for much farther distance. I think I like to have my 300 Blackouts zeroed at 50 yards. So we have this, comes in, and then it does its tumble. Very traditional FMJ. Then it takes a turn left. So let me switch to the other camera. See, again, it comes in over here, comes around, does its tumbling in this horizontal direction, and then takes a right turn, comes into my box, hits my extra gelatin, and we have the round, folks. We have the round. Isn't that so interesting? Take a look at the round, and it looks like an FMJ. Well, cool beans. Why don't we try a Sub X from Hornady now? Okay, well, next up we have that Hornady Sub X round. We'll see how that performs. All right, 1025. Let's see if we captured it. It was a little high, but let's go see what it did. Round two. Try and shoot it, not as high. That's better. 1020, so very similar velocities. Let's see what it did. Much better performer. In fact, it performs a lot like a 45 ACP. Yes, it's not as wide in terms of it, but it's a very similar bullet weight, and it's doing very similar types of things, or even a 10 millimeter hollow point, or even a 40 Smith & Wesson. It was probably going about that speed, 200 grains, going 1,000 feet per second. That's very 40 Smith & Wesson-ish. Of course, it's 30 cal, but it does expand. And that's the important part that I wanted to prove and remind everyone is that when you are shooting subsonic rounds, it's really like shooting a pistol caliber. So why don't we dig this out? Look at this bullet. This is what it looked like. This is that flex tip that's in it that's plugging it up so it doesn't get caught up in clothing. And then this is the bullet. It expanded very well, performed very well. with the normal, there is one part of it that didn't totally go down, but yeah, whoops, 0.43, right? 0.44. Now, that's what we get with the subsonic rounds. Now, one of the cool things about 300 Blackout is we can also put in a super. Let's throw in a super on this now. All right, well, now we have a 110 grain Saber Black or Black Saber. It's the AAC tip, black tip bullet. We'll see how it performs in this gelatin. That's one of the cool parts about having 300 Blackout is you can go between these rounds. Yeah, that's going to show there's a pretty big difference. Well, you can tell now that one of these rounds performs like a rifle and one performs like a pistol. The round came in, absolutely exploded at the 3-inch mark. We got petals, fragments going all over in here and continued to go down. Now, what is interesting is that I found the lead core down at about 16 inches. And then ironically, a little bit of the copper kept going out to about 17 inches in the next gel block, 17, 18 inches in the next gel block. So performing very well. And just, you could see by the energy hitting that and the damage in the gel block, it's just fantastic. Let me give you kind of a top view of what's going on in here. So hard to see all these cuts in here, but this just gives you just the one. It's just so much more. Probably was tumbling and exploding and fragmenting all that energy dump in there. Thing that I forgot to say while I was doing this was that 2088, so almost double the velocity with that 110 grain bullet. Okay, well, next up, we're going to be doing just some velocity testing. This is a 5-shot group with the 200 grain Magtech Tactical. We'll see how it performs with the 5-shot group. 1082. All right, we've had a min of 1048, an average of 1073, a max of 1107, extreme spread of 59, standard deviation of 20, average kinetic energy of 511. So again, this is very much-ish 40 Smith & Wesson weak 10 millimeter type capacity. And I think it's important for everybody to be remembering that when you're shooting subsonic ammunition. Now let's go for just comparison. We're not going to shoot the Sub X. I have a video on that already. We're going to do the 110 grain just to get a velocity reading on that. All right, see what this does. All right, that's our 5 shots. Got a min of 1080, average of 1094, and a max of 210. That's extreme spread of 30, standard deviation of 10, average kinetic energy of 1070. So some good things to look for with 300 Blackout. The things when I like to do some ballistic testing and just kind of ammo testing, and again, I'm kind of evaluating this 300 Blackout Subsonic Magtech ammo to see if it's really up to snuff in terms of for me doing practicing and things like that with it. So I want to see how it prints on paper. We're back at 20 yards. We're not going to, I'm just standing up, so I'm not even going to claim it's some kind of accuracy test, but we'll see how well I can shoot it at 20 yards with this rifle. All right, let's go down, see what our 5-shot group is at 20 yards. Okay, this is our group at 20 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of my fist if you do it this way. But yeah, these are 8-inch targets across, so that just tells you. And at 20 yards, that's not great, sure. It's fine for practical accuracy. If I was aiming in the A zone, that would be pretty close to the A zone. So I think that's good enough. It's good practice ammo. It's still a little cracky, so I need to get something that's just a little bit lower in velocity. Even though it's out of this 8.5-inch barrel, I'm getting closer to the 1100 foot-pound or 1100 velocity. And at various times and seasons in the year, that gets a little cracky in terms of passing the speed of sound just a touch. So yeah, the sub almost supersonic ammunition. Yeah, why don't we lift the earphones just a little bit? Yeah, I think I'm losing hearing better in that ear. Why don't we just lift it a little bit and see how well our ABA-10 suppressor is doing with the Subsonics. If I get a crack on the first round, I'm putting the earmuffs down. At 1050 up to 1100, we're getting close-ish to Supersonic. So just have to be a little careful with the ears like that. Yeah, that's a little cracky. That's a little cracky. Okay, well, so again, I think we had some great insights today. So again, what we learned was that not all 300 subsonic ammunition is made alike. You have to be very careful when you're choosing subsonic ammunition because otherwise it'll just do one tumble and get out of the block. But if you are choose carefully and have some good self-defense, 300 Blackout, it can perform like a pistol round and can get very good performance, very good expansion, things like that, like we saw with the Hornady Sub X. But then you also have the option to go supersonic, and then it performs more like a rifle. Now, this is an 8.5-inch barrel, so you're not going to get all the velocity like you would with other rifles, but you can get, and as we saw in the gel, you get pretty good performance, as we saw with that 110 grain black Saber ammunition. So I hope this was useful for me. I enjoyed putting the content together. I like 300 Blackout. I think it's a compelling round for home defense. This setup is very similar to what I have for my home defense setup. I have a 10.5-inch barrel in that case, but this is something that I often take with me when I'm moving around or traveling just a little bit. It's a setup that I like to take with me when I'm traveling because it's so compact and it can kind of move between these different things. And again, a rifle versus a pistol in terms of how you can shoot it and how accurately you can perform with it, I think that's another thing. Now, I didn't shoot it very accurately today, so don't hold that against me, but I think that the capacity is there when you have 3 points on the gun. All right, so with that said, I hope everyone has a great week. I hope this was interesting to you, and let's get to shooting.
Out here in the US of A, where our spirits run free, trigger by philosopher, it's you and me. From pistols to rifles, we'll take on the bed.